Hello lucky viewer and welcome to I.O., aka Information Overload, where today the real overload appears to be the rain that's now caused a muddy floody chaos in the Nevada desert. That's right, this video is going to be about the top 10 celebrities that survived Burning Man 2023. Now our first celebrity is the kooky influencer known as Wonderhussy, who addresses the situation and the history of Burning Man all in one shot. For those that are unaware, Burning Man is a countercultural arts event that, once upon a time, celebrated creativity and acted as a counterpoint to mindless capitalism and consumerism. Yet in recent years, it's been gentrified and commodified to the nines. What was once about radical self-reliance has its attendees flown in on private jets and shacked up in luxury accommodation with air conditioning. To quote Awa Madawi of The Guardian, one of the many news circuits documenting this crazy event, "I don't care how exotic the substance is or how interesting the art is. Once people such as Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk show up at your party, there is no longer anything countercultural about it. You are not rebelling against the man, you are the man." Wonderhussy addresses this amid all the rampant rumors of death and doom in the now swampy desertscape. She comments that despite the mess, the streets are packed with people making the worst of the fiasco. Some break camp, share their leftover food, and light communal fires with scrap wood. She then noted the bizarre episode in which she was preparing to camp for the night when she heard the sound of a drooping sad tuba coming down the street. The fact that some unyielding soul slogged through the rain and mud with a crazy tuba just to create a dodgy vibe has reinstilled my faith in this mess of a festival, she continued. Despite reports of the contrary, the spirit of Burning Man is alive and well. She added that the low-key, community-like atmosphere at the event has been enhanced by the lack of frat bros and Instagram models and is instead littered with a bunch of muddy lunatics, which is rekindling the energy of Burning Man to its long-time attendees who have watched their cultural event be lost to capitalism that it was supposed to oppose. Celeb escapee number 9 is Tessa Thompson, whose tale of woe is shared by an avid burner, Frank Binney, on Facebook. He'd run into the actress on the muddy trek out of Burning Man and wrote that today I met actress Tessa Thompson and her British burner friends as they met their limo driver after a 5-mile hike to the paved road. Binney also posted photos of the group and their limo driver once they'd reached him, who looked immaculate in his neat suit, a complete juxtaposition from the landscape that they were in, which also invoked more commentary about the gentrification of BM and the irony of a celebrity hiking through miles of sand only to get in a limo, while tens of thousands of people remain stranded. Not all people who are famous are for a good reason, such as Neal Katyal. So this former Obama admin and Supreme Court lawyer was one of the many who made the derisive trek out of this site through what he described as heavy and slippery mud on his many social media postings. The photos he shared online show him happily wearing tie-dye, splattered with mud, and rocking a 90s style propeller hat. One could argue that seeing humanizing and down-to-earth imagery of political figures reminds us that they're just like us. But Neal, you may remember, is famous from the 2020 news headlines that he made by asking the Supreme Court to turn their heads and let companies off the hook when it comes to using underage labor. I'm not saying Neal helped a large corporation skirt these laws, which he did, but he is the typical Burning Man attendee these days, the establishment in a goofy hat. Number 7 is model Yali Kovalenko, who intended to spend her Burning Man doped up and decked out, evident from her first few posts of the event where she's all sequins and fur and name brands. However, after her first few days, Yali posts some comparison clips on her Instagram story of the declining weather. First we see her ATVing in the beautiful sandy desert under the sun with the caption, "Yesterday the weather was like this." And then one click away, the following clip is taken from other overhang as rain drizzles showing now congealed and muddy sand, captioned, "And today looks like this." The two clips are significantly different, as are all the ones following her rainy and mucky update, as Burning Man was no longer an aesthetic venture, rather one that forced influencers and celebrities alike to pull up their pants and deal with economic consequences. Yali shared a day ago on her story that she and her group decided to make the trek out of Burning Man, but it's an Instagram influencer, so. Anyways, shade aside, to correct that for her, Yali was laughing in the beginning of the 2-hour walk, but not in the end when the rain hit. Luckily for Yali, some kind folks also escaping were able to pick up her and her crew and give them a lift. Not that she gave them a shout out or public thanks or anything, she just posted the sunset on her story and declared she was safely out of Burning Man. Number 6 on our list is 2 for 1. It's Kelly Gale and Joel Kinnaman. This Victoria's Secret model and her actor fiance, who's best known for being Rick Gunn in Suicide Squad and a bunch of other action movies your boyfriend makes you watch but you hate, were also victims of Burning Man. Kelly took to Instagram, sharing photos and videos of herself and her hubby on her story as they were, to quote, getting to safety while walking with others. "I did not think we would walk out on the burn this year," Kinnaman said in the same video. Other clips and pics she snapped showed her and her friends wrapped in trash bags while going through puddles. Kelly wrote about the experience that every year this place is interesting, and one photo revealed that she and Joel eventually landed back home. Celeb Christine Lee is number 5. Working as a famous circus performer and entertainer, it makes sense for someone like Christine to cameo at Burning Man. She was featured on a TikTok account called Burning Man Fashion, which is a fan-run account and documents the eccentric outfits of the gentrified festival. Christine's video was an upbeat yet tired update that visitors aren't allowed to leave the venue and that there is, to quote, enough tuna to last a week. Wow! So, between the humidity, long-lost deodorants, mud, closed-down bathrooms, and tuna, I'm sure Burning Man is smelling like a diaper-riddled daycare for Nepo babies at this point. Christine commented on what her conditions have been like. "I have no shoes because it's really hard to walk with my shoes. They're about 5 inches and then the mud became 5 inches, so I was kind of on stilts." She finished by calmly chirping, "We may not be able to leave until Monday or Tuesday, so yeah, off the map, but totally safe." The next celeb on the list is part of what CNN anchor Nick Watt called a little clique of celebs. It's Cindy Crawford. For those unaware, Cindy Crawford attended Burning Man for the first time in her life in 2022 with her daughter Kaya. It was an experience she had described as everything I hoped it would be and so much more. However, her second trip, this time with her husband Randy Gerber as well, and Austin Butler in tow, was anything but. Cindy, her daughter Kaya, and her husband made the decision to trek back the 3 hours in the mud to the closest town. With them was the strangest assembly of celebrities to make headlines together. Chris Rock, Diplo, Austin Butler, as well as multiple TV producers, and, as Nick Watt also stated, a couple of people who just wanted to get home to their children. They didn't take no for an answer. So obviously we gotta talk about this celebrity mixed bag. So how did Austin Butler feel? Well, we don't actually get to know. He and Cindy Crawford and Kaya and Randy Gerber have all been very quiet about the experience since the story of their murky escape made news. Some speculate this comes from a place of embarrassment. Having to trek 3 hours through the flooded desert is no small feat, however, and their silence could very well be the result of being, quite frankly, exhausted. Like many others who attended Burning Man this year, Austin had to leave his belongings behind and make the horrible trek through the wet sand, which for those who don't know has a suction-like effect. Walking on it becomes incredibly difficult within minutes, so imagine 5 miles. I think a little bit of celeb silence is warranted. Someone who isn't staying silent though, however, is number 2, Diplo, who escaped with the gaggle of celebrities and documented the whole experience on his social media. It was probably pretty exciting for him to meet people like Cindy Crawford and Chris Rock, who he wouldn't have otherwise. He's not like a big name in the paper, you know? Anyways. Chris, Diplo, and a group of others, as aforementioned, made the decision to trek it out of Burning Man together, and they were one of the first groups to actually risk doing this. Diplo had made pretty light of the situation, and given how much he talked about Chris Rock, it appears the comedian did as well. To quote Diplo, "After 6 miles through the mud, all Chris could think about was a cold brew." After walking 3 miles, Diplo and Chris were recognized by a fan under layers of dirt and sand caked on them, who offered them and the Crawfords and Austin Butler and others a lift. Diplo captioned the post video with, "I legit walked the side of the road for hours with my thumb out because I have a show in DC tonight and didn't want to let y'all down." Also shout out to this guy for making the smartest purchase of a truck, not knowing it was for this exact moment. Diplo made it to Washington DC to perform his show and continue to update fans about getting stuck at the festival. No one was making it out of Burning Man. No one believed we would get to DC for the show tonight, but God did. He wrote on a selfie during the plane ride to Washington DC, and he posted it on his Instagram story as well. And obviously, our number 1 celeb survivor is Chris Rock. Chris Rock, notorious funny man, proved to be exactly that in how he addressed the situation. One of Rock's first complaints when asked about the fiasco was that because of the flooding, the porta potties reportedly can't be emptied. Now, while this is disastrous to those in the this situation, and admittedly a little funny to those of us on the outs. Chris did continue on to address the more serious issue to quote, "Because the gates are closed, people can't get in to fill generators or deliver supplies." That's a little bit more serious than the porta potties. Chris made this statement right as the Washoe Country Sheriff Department announced the gate closure for Burning Man, which would remain closed for safety purposes until September 4th, the event end date. The rain left thousands of people stranded, and one person was found deceased on site, NPR reported. However, he was in his late 50s and it wasn't weather related, so no need to overhype that. Once Chris and Diplo had hiked it with their group until they arrived in Gerlach, the nearest civilization, he said they hitchhiked again with a driver who was headed to Reno. From there, Diplo was able to make it onto his flight to the East Coast, and Chris could finally get himself washed off and inevitably start on some new material. Because to quote Diplo, for sure Chris is going to have a huge bit in his next special about Burning Man, because he was bizarrely scared of what was going to happen. Thanks once again for watching I.O. I hope this information was an overload, but not so much of one, because we want y'all coming back now again. Be sure to drop a like, maybe some comments, and be sure to subscribe to see more of our regularly posted videos. Wasn't weather related, so no need to overhype that. Can you slow that down? Up a bit? Thank you. Once Chris and Diplo